Now let's look at theorem 7.3. I call this Pythagorean's inequality. We saw Pythagorean equality, showed for c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Let's read this. If the square of the length of the longest side, which is the hypotenuse of a triangle, is less than the sum of the squares of the lengths of the other two sides, the legs, then the triangle is an acute triangle. Let's take a look. Let's make this a little simpler for you. It says this. If c squared is less than a squared plus b squared, then the triangle is acute. In our next set of big problems, we're going to be looking at a triangle and deciding whether it's a right triangle if c squared equals a squared plus b squared, or deciding whether it's an acute or obtuse. Well, we see here that if c squared is less than a squared plus b squared, it will be an acute triangle. In a second, we'll take a look at Sketchpad and show you a little picture of this and what's going on. Now let's take a look at what we've got going on in this sketch right here. I've drawn a right triangle. Our angle measures are in red here. You can see that C is 90 degrees exactly right here. There's our right angle. A up here at the top is 49, and angle B over here right now is 41 degrees. So we've got a right triangle. You can see in black I've measured the two legs and the hypotenuse. Down here at the bottom is the important part. Over on this side, I've got the hypotenuse squared. It's measure squared. That's like the c squared part. So right now it's at 83.08. Over here on the right, I've got the two leg squares added up. This is like the a squared plus b squared side. So over here we got c squared. Over here we got a squared plus b squared. And you can see right now they're exactly the same. Why is that? Well, of course, it's a right triangle now, so c squared does equal a squared plus b squared. Now, our theorem said if we had an acute triangle, if they were all less than 90 degrees, then we no longer have this relationship that c squared would be less than a squared plus b squared. So let's change this. Let's bring that 90-degree angle down. Right now it's at 87. Let's bring it down to about 85. And now if we look at our measurements right down here, we really no longer have a hypotenuse because it's not a right triangle. So we're taking the biggest side, which over here is still that same side. It's sitting at 8.78. And we square it, we get 77.09. Now if we take the other two smaller sides and square those thinking that they're the legs, it comes out to 83.28 when we add them up. So you can see right here that this c squared is less than a squared plus b squared. And it said we would have an acute triangle. And yes, all these angles are acute. What's happening here, of course, is that the hypotenuse got smaller, thus giving it a smaller c squared over here. Okay, so that's what happens when you have an acute triangle. C squared will be less than a squared plus b squared. The other Pythagorean inequality theorem, theorem 7.4, says if the square of the length of the longest side, the hypotenuse, of a triangle is greater than the sums of the squares of the lengths of the other two sides, the legs, the a squared plus b squared, then the triangle is obtuse. Or simply stated, if c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared, then the triangle is obtuse. We'll take a look at a sketchpad drawing, show you what's going on there, get a little better feel for it. Now let's take a look at this again. Let's see what happens when you get an obtuse triangle. When we make that 90-degree angle a little bigger. We can see right now we're set up at right at 90 degrees. That c squared does equal a squared plus b squared. They're both at 83.08. Now let's make that 90-degree angle bigger. All right, we're up to 92, 94, all right, about there at 96. So now we can see that C is an obtuse angle. It is greater than 90 degrees. Let's go down to the bottom here and see what happened to C squared. C squared is sitting at 92.22. How about A squared plus B squared is at 83.48. So C squared is greater than A squared plus B squared. And that's why we're having the obtuse triangle. We've got that 90 degree went above that. It's obtuse now, it's at 96. What happened when that angle opened up? It stretched out that hypotenuse, it got longer, that's why C squared got bigger than A squared plus B squared. I hope that makes sense to you. Now let's take a look at a couple of examples of you'll be doing here. Classifying triangles. We're going to try and decide whether they're acute, right, or obtuse. The question says, can segments with lengths 22 inches, 43 inches, and 49 inches form a triangle? If so, would the triangle be acute, right, or obtuse? So let's answer the first question. Can we even form a triangle with these side lengths? Well, it's a matter of using the triangle inequality. Remember, the triangle inequality says that if you add up the lengths of any two sides, it should be greater than the third side or the other side. So let's take a peek here. Using the triangle inequality, if we add up here, we're adding up the 23 and the 43 side, and that makes 65. And yeah, that's greater than the 49, the other side. In this one, we added up to 22, the smallest and the biggest. Of course, yeah, if we added up to the biggest one, it's going to be greater than that third side also. 71 is greater than 43. And in this last example, we picked two other sides. We got the medium and the largest. Yeah, if we add those up, it's 92. It's, of course, going to be greater than the smallest side. So, yes, we can make a triangle out of this. Remember, the only one you really need to check is adding up the two smallest sides. Here's the one where they added up the 22 and the 43. Those are the two smallest sides. If that's bigger than the biggest side, you can make a triangle out of that. You don't have to do all three of them. You can, but you don't have to. Remember, you just add up the two smallest ones. If it's greater than the biggest one, you can make a triangle. So, yes, the side lengths 22, 43, and 49 can form a triangle. In the next step, we'll see what kind of triangle is forming. Is it acute, right, or obtuse? Now, step 2, let's classify our triangle as acute, right, or obtuse. So remember, we got to compare C squared to A squared plus B squared. Okay, we're going to decide whether we need to put an equal sign in here, a less than or a greater than. So over here, our C squared will be our biggest side. Our biggest side was 49, so we'll take a 49 squared. And then we're going to take the sum of these two smaller sides squared. So we square them. We get that. Let's go ahead and add up this side over here and see what the total is over there. So we've got 2401 and 2333. So over here, this is bigger. The C squared is greater than A squared plus B squared. Greater than, that hypotenuse got stretched out bigger, that angle got bigger. So we know that it makes an obtuse triangle when C squared is greater than A squared plus B squared. Let's try another one. In this example, we've got the lengths of the sides are 10 inches, 14 inches, and 12 inches. First, we'll check to see if we can form a triangle with those measures, and then next we'll classify it as acute, right, or obtuse. So let's see what we have. We're going to take and check the two smaller sides over here, add them up, and see if it's greater than the biggest side. So we got 10 plus 12 should be greater than 14 if it's a triangle, and yes, it adds up to 22, which is greater than 14. So you can make a triangle with the lengths 10, 14, and 12 inches. Next, let's check and see what kind of triangle it is. Acute, right, or obtuse. Again, to classify it, we'll be comparing the c squared to a squared plus b squared. And see whether c squared is less than, greater than, or equal to a squared plus b squared. So our c will be our biggest side, 14, and then the b will be the smaller side. So we set it out there. We've got 14 squared on this side all by itself. The possible legs over here, 10 squared plus 12 squared. Go ahead and square everything. Then add up those two over there. And we can see now that our c squared is less than a squared plus b squared. Less than, so that angle, you know, that hypotenuse side, that biggest side, is smaller than the other two. It closed up a little, so that angle got smaller. So we have an acute triangle when c squared is less than a squared plus b squared. Now you can go to the practice problems. Click on the practice link and print out the practice page, and then click on the answer document link so you can enter your answers into the computer. Good luck. Now I'd like you to do a little writing assignment on what we've been discussing, you know, how to classify a triangle as acute, right, or obtuse. So I want you to explain in writing how you would go about classifying a triangle as acute, right, or obtuse if you are given the lengths of the three sides. Try and be as specific as you can. Write your best grammar and English, capitalization. Watch out for those. We'll check those later. Good luck.